Chris Young, along as our co-host this week, we mentioned the new album just came out, Young Love and Saturday Night. A couple songs on here we've heard before. All the Dogs Go to Heaven among them. But first of all, I think you've always sounded great. But this album, I don't know if your vocals are more out front or what it is, or more presence. It feels a little more raw. Some of the production stripped back a little bit, showcasing your great voice. I mean, so tell me.
Thank you for saying that. It's definitely vocal forward on this record. I felt like I was in a really good place the way that I was singing, and really wanted to showcase that. And
really comes across, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's interesting because this album, more so than the last several that we've done, there are a lot of songs that are sort of stripped back, instrumentation-wise. Not even production, just the amount of instruments on tracks. And I think that sort of shines through, and especially because it is vocal forward, it sort of gives it a little bit of a different feel from the last couple records that I've made, but also I think hopefully it's in a good way.
First album in 3 years. I mean, I can't believe Famous Friends was 3 years ago, first of all. And obviously been writing just a ton to come up with 15 songs on here. Just kind of take me through some of this. So maybe I'll just do song by song here a little bit, the ones that stood out to me, because there's some, you get a little swampy and play. I'll Call It a Day has a great groove. Just, I don't know, just feels so good.
So that one to me is definitely in the pocket of the sexy love song thing that I have done before, but it is so much like country music meets R&B. And it definitely has a pocket and a vibe to it, and that was one of the reasons why that song ended up on the record.
Yeah, well, being from the south side of Chicago, I kind of moved to that. Maybe that's why I liked it so much. I don't know, and then you get a little swampy in songs as well, I think, and Double Down.
Yeah, that is a testament to Derek Wells, great guitar player. Buddy of mine that has played on a bunch of albums. I did not write this song. This is one of the ones that I didn't write, but I produced this by myself. And I had the benefit of having him do that just drop D, bend down guitar part in this. And I think it really makes the track to the point where there's like a pedal that, I mean, a lot of people have used it, but Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine used it, that just sort of creates that drop bend.
Yeah.
And my guitar player has one of those out on stage right now to be able to play that song, because that's just such a crazy thing. And Derek in studio, I believe, did it using just down tuning as he's playing that.
Wow. Yeah.
But it's such a cool part, and it really makes the song
interesting. And you mentioned getting older. I heard that and went, give me a break.
Well, I mean,
getting older.
If you look at the title and you don't listen to the song, then it's like, oh, why is he cutting this? Also, you've known me for a really long time, but that song is a song for my dad. And I was really trying to write a song for my dad, and had attempted it a couple times and was just like, this isn't it. And
well, what drew you to it? I mean, again, one of the three on this album you didn't have a hand in writing, but and I like that just the notion, ain't afraid of getting older.
Yeah, and it's so the hook of the song is, if I could have the chance to be like my old man, I ain't afraid of getting older. I love the idea of that, because you want to grow up to be like your dad.
I think one of the things that drew me to the song was the fact is that isn't always the case. You have to get older to get to that point in life, because obviously, as they say, the older you get, the smarter your dad gets. But you have to get to a certain point in life to even get to the point where you realize that, being like my dad is actually something that's a good thing to aspire to.
Well, it's really funny, actually. I posted a photo not too long ago on the internet of me hanging out with my dad, and it's my stepdad, but that's who I refer to as my dad. And everybody's like, "You guys look so much alike," and I was just like, "Okay, we'll go with that. We'll go with that."
Another song on here that's I always love twisting songs, but I Drink to Remember.
Yeah, that is definitely like a looking back song, and I haven't cut a whole lot of those. I don't think I've really cut hardly any that I was like, oh, this one's great, and it's talking about looking back. And I think those songs when I was growing up, when I was listening to country music, that was one of the themes that I loved. Kenny Chesney did so many of those like perfectly, like to a T. And I've always wanted to have a song like that. So that's sort of in that same vein.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I normally drink to forget, but
I drank to remember.
Yeah. Killer. Love Knee Deep in Neon.
Yeah, Knee Deep in Neon. I would love to tell you there's like some crazy story about this, or that it is this super deep meaning, but it's just a party song, man.
Yeah. No,
that's all it is.
There's a wide range, and I can't tell. I didn't count them up. I'm not sure if he did content, if there were more songs with women and love in them, or more songs about drinking. And some songs have both. Oddly enough.
And then there's songs about my dad and songs about my dog, and I really did try to touch on all of the things in life on this record. And when you got to change that up, some of those songs are breakup songs and they're sad. Some of them are happy. Some of them are just about going out and having a great night. And that's what Knee Deep in Neon is.
Well, that's pretty much the album, right? I mean, it is kind of all over the map in terms of songs. I have to admit, when I listen to albums, I will often listen to the first song and the last song, and especially when you see 18, because when you guys, what's it called, sequencing, when you guys put the thing in order, and knowing you probably agonize over the order that you put songs in. But I like to listen to the first song because it kind of sets up what's coming, and then the last song, and you end the album with Down.
Yeah, so thank you. That was the last thing that I wrote that ended up on the record. So I was like, this is kind of appropriate for it to be the very last track that people hear, because it was the very latest thing that I wrote that made the album. And I just think this song is something really, really special. And I was like, you know what? It deserves to be the bookend to this album for people to hear.
Another song on here is Right Now, and you put out a pretty dramatic video for this.
Yeah,
the rain and the dark and the stark.
I love it because somebody asked me recently. They were like, "So did you guys like wait for a day where it was raining?" I'm like, "That is totally fake. There was a guy outside with like a hose with holes in it, and then them doing fake lightning and thunder in the background. Like none of that was real." But it was very, very cool to make that video and have something that was, really, I hope, impactful when people watch it alongside the song, because it is that sort of angst, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a love song, but it's a different sort of love song where it's, where are you? What are you doing right now? It's the middle of the night, and you just can't stay away from that person that means something to you. And I love the idea of that. I think a lot of people have been through that, and I thought the video encapsulated that angst perfectly.
It did, but you say love song, and yet on the other hand, like there's so much like tension, like when you guys are laying on the floor next to each other, but there's no touching
space, yeah,
and so it's intense. It's like it's like there's a almost conflict there.
Yeah, and that was intentional. I think that's sort of what you get from this song, where it's not a straight up love song. It's not a breakup song, but it's like, did they break up and now they're just like getting back together, sort of, or are they sure they want to get back together? And there's just like a lot of questions in that,
Yeah, but it's like if
relationship.
people say every breath you take is love song. Well, I don't know that that's a love song. That's a little creepy.
That,
I mean, like, where are you? What are you doing?
yeah, exactly.
There's an edge there. There's a line there.
Yeah.
Somewhere. It has been 3 years since Famous Friends, so there has been a lot of time for you to write. But it is writing the 15 of the 18 songs on this new album, was that a real surge of creativity for you, or is that pretty normal writing output for you?
I would say right now I'm right after we talked about the song right now. I am writing as much as I ever have. And I think that's just that you go through periods as a songwriter where it's like you write 100 songs or you write 120 songs a year. And that was what the past couple years have been for me. I didn't write that many songs during 2020 and 2021.
Which is odd because you would think with the pandemic and not being on the road that you might.
And I'm sort of the person where the happier I am, the more creative I am. And not everybody is that way, but if I'm in a space where I'm truly like happy and enjoying myself, I find myself to be more creative. I was not happy in 2020.
And you weren't alone.
I feel like I was not alone in that at all.
Another song, again, the twists. I know you fall in love, but how do you fall out?
Yeah, that song was so much fun to write, and I know that sounds weird.
Well, a little,
but it was an idea that I think needs to be heard, and it is like sort of the thing of it's easy to fall into love with somebody, but how do you fall out of love with them? And that's always the difficult part, right? When you go through a breakup like that, that is the part that sucks.
Especially because those two things, both people don't have the same experience at the same time.
No.
Usually, that's the problem.
Normally, when you're falling into it, everybody has the same feelings. But just how do you fall out?
Yeah.
And I just love the idea of that as a song title, and wrote it with a bunch of friends of mine, and it just was like, okay, this has to make the record.
Last album, as we mentioned, Famous Friends, 3 years ago. You had some famous friends on that album. Here, there are no famous friends. 18 songs and...
Yeah, I sort of wanted that to be a thing with the last record where there's a bunch of guests. And for this album, I was like, you know what? I want this to be something different. I want this to live somewhere else. And so I really debated a couple times having some people on this album. One of them couldn't do it, and the other one that I was thinking about asking, I ended up never asking them. So it's just something different.
Yeah,
this album is its own thing. I wanted it to sort of stand on its own.
Are there any like the title track, "Young Love and Saturday Night," features some writers, famous writers in town: Jesse Frazier, Ashley Gorley, Josh Thompson. We'll talk about the other writer credit in a second. And what about all the other parts of the album? Were the people did you go outside your circle of songwriting friends? Because I haven't seen the songwriter credit. So is there anybody that that really?
Honestly, this album in particular was probably the most that I've either stayed in my group of friends that I've written with before, and that I've gone outside of that circle. So it was a blend of both. And I really got lucky to be with so many different creative people and write the songs that I wanted to write for this album and find the songs that I wanted to find when I didn't write them. I feel like maybe the time that I had to make this record it made it more special, if that makes sense.
So 3 years between albums was a creative choice.
I don't know if it was a choice, but it was definitely the right thing for this project, and you never know that until you're done with it. But
Yeah.
this one was pretty special.